Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine, on early today because it's getting close to the time that I'm going to be leaving Ohio and going back to Florida. So there's a lot of stuff going on to make sure that everything is where it's supposed to be and the place it's supposed to be. This happens every year. So, for those people who don't know about the show, you'll catch it on the archive, which is what most people do anyway. I'm really moved to do this program for a number of reasons because it covers some moral ground to begin the program, which is a rarity in professional sports, and it also talks and directs itself at fan reaction and asks the question why some fans behave the way they do when the obvious truth is right in front of their face. The moral part of the story is Virginia's Tony Bennett. He didn't leave his heart in San Francisco. He's just left Virginia to retire. Their former men's basketball coach, who announced his retirement today, pointed to the current environment. Hey, Big Lurker, how you doing? In college sports as one of the real driving forces why he wanted to get out. He just doesn't want to run the program in its current environment, he said. If you're going to do it, you got to be all in. If you do it half-hearted, it's not fair to the university and to the young men who are playing for the university. So in looking at it, that's what made me step down. He's only 55 years old, but he sees what I see and what nobody else cares about because they're too busy gambling their fucking money away on everything and any kind of sport you can imagine. If you put something in front of them about lacrosse, they would bet on it. And Bennett and I agree that student athletes deserve to receive revenue. But you know what the deal is? It's no different than what we face in this country when they say, oh, we're going to give you a tax break. And then you find out that the tax break is so minimal, but they raise your costs in like 15 different areas so that you're losing money anyway. The student athletes receiving revenue have nothing to do with the consolidation of power in college athletics. That's something that a few powerful, money-hungry people decided would be the case. And for schools that are still major universities who don't have the big names and don't have the TV networks behind them, it makes it impossible for people to be able to recruit. So it's funny because what's going to happen is the real blue chippers are going to get the revenue. All right. The rest of the athletes who are going to be playing for schools, they, on the other hand, are going to get a pittance and they're going to receive no publicity whatsoever. And it's not going to work in the favor of the athlete. It never does, folks. It always works to the advantage and privilege of the people who already have more money than everyone else. And you know the programs and the schools, how much money they're making, how much money that they're spending on their head coach. You've seen it with the University of Alabama. You're seeing it with Clemson. You see it with Ohio State and Michigan. You see it, and Notre Dame. You see it, and you know what the deal is. All right. So the game itself has been morphed into something which is for the select elite few, just like the economy of this country has done the same thing. Everything waters down to the few who control where the money goes. And I don't blame Bennett for stepping down. I don't blame people, if you don't want to watch, the big time college football, but I'm not going to convince you to stop watching it because that's part of your life and you enjoy watching it. But the fact of the matter is it's not healthy. And it's nice to see somebody take a moral position and say, you know something, how am I supposed to play on such an uneven terrain to begin with And if I can't go, if I have to go to the university and beg for money in order to get this done, then it becomes harder to coach the players, and it's really a difficult situation. So I thought that the moral part of this program then will switch over to our favorite network, Bally Sports, which is rebranding itself as FanDuel Sports. Oh boy. Okay. Bally Sports sucks. Bally Sports has nothing to do with sports. Bally Sports is a wagering concept. They are a ridiculous network that doesn't pay its bills, and they are morally bankrupt. And as far as I'm concerned, I'll call them the dog shit sports network, because they ain't going to have any major league sports on there because they've lost almost all of the baseball teams, including the Guardians. And you're going to see that again. What's going to happen is Major League Baseball is going to pick up the broadcasts of the Guardians games. And you're saying to yourself, well, that's better than Bally Sports because they're unreliable. Their app never worked anyway. But it's not beneficial, because where are the Guardians going to make up their revenue that they got, well, that they were trying to get from Bally Sports, who kept defaulting on it? Where are they going to get their revenue? Everybody complains that the Guardians have too small a payroll as it is because they're in a smaller market. Well, if you take their TV rights money away from them, they ain't going to get it by Joe and John's Plumbing in Wickliffe, Ohio. I mean, where are they going to get the money? How are they going to field the team? And the teams that are losing their television are all like the Pirates. It's the same group of teams that struggle every year to put payrolls together. And the Marlins, and it puts you all the way down at the very bottom trying to put together any kind of a team. So goodbye, Bally Sports. As far as I'm concerned, goodbye, FanDuel Sports. I'll never have to watch that cheesy network ever again. The latest news is that Nick Chubb is to return on Sunday. Jerome Ford has been ruled out with a hamstring injury, but Nick Chubb is still questionable as far as whether he's going to play. You figure it out, because I don't have fucking time. All right. Here's what I really want to talk about today. Fans who really love sports. The reason that kind of lousy movies like Rudy were so popular is because people root for the underdog. Why do you think Rocky Balboa has become the stuff of legend? And that there's a statue right there in Philadelphia that doesn't exist. Why do you think that is? Because America always loves the underdog. That's not true anymore. What people want is to bet their money and come up with a winner. And they want to cheer for a winner. And they want the shortest route to a winner. And the shortest route is never the right route. And spending money isn't the answer. You got to know what the fuck you're doing. But on top of that, and we've talked about management on past shows, I'm not going to talk about that. What I'm going to talk about are the players themselves. What it requires in the shadows of the performance of the Guardians last night is that if everybody isn't hitting on all cylinders, and God only knows, it's very difficult to have 9 men on the field who are all at high cylinder pace. It's just not a likelihood. But if Jose Ramirez is having difficulty this series, who's going to pick him up? And I'm going to compare that with the Cleveland Browns. And so all the asinine fools who want to point at one player, this player, that player, mustn't ever forget that it's all about team chemistry, the desire of people to put out 100% on a playing field, and people who share the responsibility evenly not an uneven thing where you sit and wait for one person to get the job done. And if they don't get the job done, you lose. I mean, looking at yesterday's game as objectively as I can, which, believe me, it isn't really easy to do. I'm gonna bring Steven in here. Hi, Steven. How you doing? And hi, Hammer Time. How are you?
I'm doing much better now than I was around the 8th inning yesterday. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was funny because I put up a video. I had to go to a local theater that was putting on some karaoke stuff, and
we saw that. That's some pretty slick singing there, Moo.
It was fun because it took me away from the game, and I had watched right up to the point where they were up 3-1, and then they were down 5-3, and it was looking bad. But I had to leave, but we were following the game while we were in the club, and there were people there who were also following the game. And when I had an opportunity to sing New York, New York, which I was going to sing, and if you hear the intro of the song, it was a jinx song. The whole idea was to jinx the Yankees, and damned if it didn't work. It was one of the funniest things that's ever happened to me on a stage in my life. And that's saying a lot of things, because I've had produce hurled at me when I did stand-up comedy when I was in college. I've had all kinds of bizarre things happen to me. But the second that I asked the question, well, are they winning yet? And the woman says, no. Yes! Because she was following it on ESPN on her phone. And it was like, oh, my God, well, what in the hell happened? So then we had to piece it all together. But afterwards, I came home and I looked at the highlights. I heard Hammy's calls and all that good stuff. The thing that always bothers me, it's easy to say, okay, Jhonkensy Noel, and we'll talk about him in a minute, and David Fry, we'll talk about him in a minute. But it's the unsung. It's the people who contribute in a way that make those moments possible. It took Pedro Avila to get out of the 10th inning. And to get Pedro Avila out of the 10th inning, it took Jimenez on an incredible play and an incredible stretch by Josh Naylor. So it took incredible defense to get him out of that inning. Everybody kind of working together. It was like ants marching, I think was the name of the song. And but it was like one hand helping another. And it was a sight to see. And again, what you're really doing is you're reaching out and you're lifting up Emmanuel Clase, because he's done such a fine job this year. And people say, oh, he's Jose Mesa and that kind of thing. And I understand. It's the first thing that came out of my mouth, too, was like, oh, God, not this again. But the fact of the matter is that I was surprised to see him throwing sliders again. And he hung 2 pitches. And it could be because his arm is tired, because he's had to go to into the games in the 8th innings a couple of times. He's throwing more pitches. It's the end of the season. It could be any number of things. But rather than saying he's dog shit, this is Cleveland fans. He's dog shit. Fuck him, man. Fuck him, and he could go back to Texas. I don't want to watch this guy. Why am I sounding like Dick Vitale all of a sudden? No, baby, get that guy the fuck out of here, back over the border. Donald Trump will throw his Mexican ass right back over the border. Fans are really ill-tempered. And if you look at this series objectively, Naylor couldn't hit a hooker if he had $10,000. He's waving at everything, and he's obviously visually frustrated. Jose
Ramirez, like he's pressing too.
Yeah, he is absolutely.
He's absolutely pressing.
Not in a good place.
No.
And then you have Ramirez, who's trying to go pull happy, and he's not trying to hit the ball to the open field. And so that's our 1-2 power punch. It's not working out. Then you have Rocchio, who actually has been hitting a little, and it's kind of an inverted thing, but we're not getting the big power that we need from this lineup. But we're not up to this point. Nobody has stood up and said, we got to get this done like we did in the regular season. You have to give the organization credit. And the reason is these players are motivated to win. There is no question in my mind that these guys are never say die guys. Now, it makes me feel as though they may not win. And the odds are long when you're playing the New York Yankees because they've just got so much. And all you have to know is that the three guys are the Billionaire Boys Club. They're going to be paying three players in their prime over $1 billion.
Damn.
A season. $1 billion fucking dollars.
Damn.
They're going to pay these three athletes right in the middle of their lineup. And the one is going to happen. And they're thinking $600,000 for Soto. All right. That's what, or $600 million. I'm sorry, for Soto. That's what they're talking about. And that dwarfs the Guardians payroll. I mean, so what do we have to cheer? Why should we be cheering the Guardians? And I know some people say, look, dude, I just don't like baseball. It's like, fine, you don't have to watch baseball, but you can support your local team. The thing that kills me about all these people who say, I'm seeing some people saying, oh, that dome is going to be great for our area and this and that. It's like they all said the same thing when downtown was being rejuvenated. Remember when the Jake was going to save downtown Cleveland? Or remember when the shambles of a football stadium that they put up in 1999, 2000 was going to save the downtown area? Do you remember the inside farmers market at the West Side Market and how that was going to save downtown? Well, look at downtown Cleveland now, you stupid fucks. The bottom line is it never helps the people who they say it's going to help. It only helps the professional organization that moves into that area. It temporarily raises the tax rates of those areas. It creates a situation where people are forced to move out because they can't afford to live in that area anymore. And in this case, it forced people out of downtown Cleveland and forced them south into Akron. That's all you have to know. If you live here, for God's sakes, that's all you have to know. And then 20 some odd years later, 30 years later, here now we're talking about Brook Park, and now we're talking about, it's going to bring business and it's going to bring this and that. What it's going to bring is more zeros behind the numbers for Jimmy Haslam and his wife, Dee. That's what it's going to do.
And it's a cash grab.
And people who are currently living out in the areas of Strongsville and the areas that go out toward west area, toward the Brook Park area, they're going to sell their houses to get money out of them. And then the elite rich will go in and suddenly you'll start, and I'll be here. And I'll take a fucking video camera up there and I'll show you what's happening if you don't believe me.
Yeah.
And you'll see all of the suburbs filling in with wealthy people who are already wealthy, who will always be wealthy. And then the people who inherit their money, like Jimmy Haslam. And those people will remain wealthy forever.
He's nothing but a crook.
But it's not about winning and losing. And look, all you have to do is compare the Cleveland Browns and the Cleveland Guardians. That's all you have to do. And do the Cleveland Browns look like they want to be out there?
No.
I mean,
not in any way. Every now and then Myles Garrett does. But it's like one every 4 plays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is no desire whatsoever. It's like blood has been sucked out of them by a succubus. Their spirit has been literally pulled from their bodies, and they don't even. And people say, I don't know, fuck Amari Cooper. No, Amari Cooper wants to play professional football. He can't do that in Cleveland because it's not professional. All right, And I know y'all want to say, oh, it's Deshaun Watson, but it's a whole lot more than Deshaun Watson, because what you're doing is you're pointing to one player. And it's so easy to do. Oh, Jose Ramirez didn't show up, or, oh, Josh Naylor hasn't showed up. The real issue is who does? And does somebody want to stand up? When their number's called, a guy who hadn't hit a home run in 76 at bats, a guy who was hitting a sub 100 over the course of the last however many at bats, and they call him on the bench to go into the game and hit a home run. John Kenzie,
1 in 16 is a pinch hitter.
Yep. Go out there
and the only other hit was a home run.
Yeah, hit a long ball because, for the people who are screaming about Class A, and there's a lot of Cleveland fans who always like to find their whipping boys and find people to blame, you got to ask yourself another question. Take the Yankees pitcher. Why in the hell would he throw an opening fastball and then throw a changeup to John Kenzie and leave it up in the zone and run that risk? When John Kenzie was 1 for 16 in the playoffs because everything that was 6 inches off the plate and into the ground, he was swinging at. Why wouldn't you go to the outside part of the plate and keep the ball down and throw him sliders away? And the answer is somebody's not thinking.
I was thinking DraftKings or FanDuel is what I'm just.
Yeah, right. I mean, and so the same thing goes with Class A. It's like, in a must-win situation, why are you calling a secondary pitch on him? The slider is probably one of the hardest things you can throw on the human arm. And by this time of the year, if you have a guy who can spot a fastball, I mean, if you have an 0-2 count on back-to-back hitters, you can afford to throw something so far out of the strike zone to Aaron Judge or so far out of the strike zone to Stanton. You can do that to broaden and widen the strike zone. Why would you throw anything that even took a piece of the plate, let alone slowing a ball down and giving them the ball that Judge hit? I mean, he can hit the ball out.
It was an amazing piece of it bat because it was way outside. Yeah. I mean, that's what he does, though. He can put that ball out of the park.
And if you're going to throw the ball up to him, you better throw it up to him because he's 6'7" tall, and he can get on top of pitches. He's a very skilled hitter. The thing to Stanton didn't make any sense at all. You come back again with another one of these things, and they're hung pitches, and they're going to go a long ways. And give those players credit because they're part of the Billionaire Boys Club, and that's what the Yankees are paying them to do. When they're behind in the critical moment in the playoffs, step up and hit the long ball. All right. So their motivation is they get all the publicity in the world. The TBS announcers blow them on the air, and they're stars wherever they go. That's all that MLB wants to talk about are the Dodgers and the Yankees. And you never heard so much about Lindor when he was in Cleveland. But, once they get to New York, all these people become gods.
Yeah, yeah.
And that puts pressure on these players. And for both of those guys to step up to the plate, I give them what I'd say to Topaz, full doggy credit. These guys step up to the plate and they get the job done. And you've got a bunch of inexperienced Cleveland Guardians, people who you really look at them and say, God, a lot of these guys never even played in the major leagues, and here they are against the super team in the playoffs. How are they going to react to this? I mean, guys being put into games, guys like Andrew Walters, he never pitched in the major leagues until the last couple weeks of the season.
Well, they got, 5 rookie pitchers? Or something like that. It's amazing what they've done. One of the things that's come out of this is the hashtag guards ball. And it's the little stuff that they do, running out freaking balls, stuff like that. We started seeing stolen bases finally in the later innings. I don't know why we haven't been seeing that. It didn't look like Trevino. He looked like Lee Trevino, the golfer back there. Wrong Trevino. He couldn't throw runners out. I mean, he wasn't even close. He almost threw the ball in the left field twice when we swiped third.
I mean, we should have been doing more of that because that's what we do. That's
Especially
our
when you leave-
identity.
Especially when you leave 9 and 10 runners on base in 2 back-to-back games. I mean, that's the kind of, too many lost opportunities because this team doesn't have that Judge or Stanton to go out there and just put the ball out every time. You have to manufacture those runs, right? So that those little things that they do, and you get stuck with people on base, and you got to figure out some way to get them in there. So,
DJ Brobot, this is why I'm doing this program, because what you're saying here is very shallow. All right, it is a shallow thing. When a guy has a 0.67 earned run average for the season, don't you think that he can wear down and get tired? Don't you think that's possible? When he's throwing every pitch between 99 and 102 miles an hour, cutters, sliders at 90, fastballs at 102. I mean, do you think that he's trying to be Jose Mesa II? I mean, that's the kind of bad fan attitude that makes people not want to play in Cleveland. And you don't give them credit because what you aren't talking about are the people who stepped up in their place. Take a look at the young men who are playing out there and how hard it is. You saw Joey Cantillo, and he peed his pants. But to be honest with you, you would too. I mean, if all you ever did was play in AA and AAA ball, then all of a sudden they're handing you the ball and say, son, here's the most important game. If we lose this, man, we're never coming back. And so he's spiking balls. What do you expect from inexperienced players? But when it happens that they hand the bat to Jhonkensy Noel and say, here you go, big Christmas, light it up. And he gets a pitch to hit just like Stanton did, except the difference is Stanton's making gazillion dollars and Jhonkensy doesn't even have a guarantee of any kind. And he steps up to home plate and he smashes it over the wall. And the same thing's true with David Fry. David Fry was nowhere until he came to Cleveland. Take a look at his major league record. He had nothing going. He was a minor league player and not a great minor league player at that. He was a 250, 260 hitter at AAA. He did not show signs of power in the minor leagues. Take a look at his stats. Yet this season, consistently, when he steps up to the plate and is given opportunities, he has come through in clutch situations. And there's something to be said about this group of players who believe in one another. And if they can believe in one another, why can't the fans believe in them? And that's what I turn to say to DJ Brobot is, why don't you be a man? All right. Stand up on your hind legs and be a man and support what you have instead of tearing it down, because they may go out on the field and shit the bed, but they're doing better than anybody expected. They've had a sensational year. They have been the most entertaining Guardians team that I've seen since when we really did have superstar players. When we had the Albert Bells and the Jim Thomes and the Eddie Murrays and when we had people who were Omar Vizquel and we had legitimate all-star players, what we have now are a collection of guys who, I mean, let's be honest, the Rangers thought that Clase was going to be a starter and they gave up on him. All right. We got him for not a whole hell of a lot. You take a look at where these people come from. A lot of them, the organization developed a lot of these pitchers. You like to see guys like Tanner Bybee. They were, just like so many others in the past, like Bieber, they were groomed in the minor league systems of the Guardians. They know how to do that part of the game. And the rest, camaraderie, it can take you so far. And believe me, just like the guy who resigned from the University of Virginia, Tony Bennett, as their coach, You can't compete with billions of dollars consistently with minor league players, career minor league players. But you should be standing up on your feet and applauding the team that's doing it. And they could go out and win tonight. And if they win tonight, the season suddenly, this series is even.
Turns around, 2-2.
So you just don't know. But there are some of you who go, oh, I know, it's good. I knew this was going to happen when they lose. But, you shouldn't be a sports fan. Because if you want a sure thing, all right, go to the street corner, hire a hooker, and get herpes. That's a sure thing. If you want sure things, why don't you do something like that? Why don't you jump out of your car while you're driving 80 miles an hour? That's a sure thing. I just love watching a bunch of overachievers. That's really great. And to me, it's just fun to watch.
At least the Guardians are doing something that the Browns aren't. And they're actually winning. They're working together,
Yeah, and again, sometimes our players don't adjust. What if his fucking arm's tired? Who called these pitches?
Yeah.
After the Kerry Carpenter thing, who called the sliders again? What I mean, you're all looking at Class A, and you wouldn't be here without Class A. You're unappreciative.
You'd be barely beating the White Sox.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a great yeah, I mean, I think everybody has a right. Nobody wants the season to be over. Nobody wants that. But when you give something your best shot, and these guys are learning on the job. You know what? The first thing I said before the game began, why Schneemann?
Yeah.
But then I realized, well, Brennan was dropping balls in the outfield and not hitting. So you had to put somebody out there. John Kenzie hadn't been hitting.
No. Why not Schneemann?
Yeah. I mean, at that point, you go ahead and you see if you can catch the lightning in a bottle. And they did. Just the other way around. Brennan got a double, and John Kenzie hit the ball out of the park.
I think the pleasant surprise for me has been how well Rocchio's played. I mean, he's been a glove guy, all season, honestly. Been a great glove guy all year.
Yep.
But pretty much hitting Mendoza, right?
But also a young head. He really has tried to do some things that were way outside his providence.
And, getting a chance to watch him when he was at Akron and such, you could see there was tons of talent there. And you just wondered, would it ever develop? And it seems to be coming around, at least right now in the playoffs. And I just wonder if this is that step up section. You know what I mean? This is where he takes that next thing and becomes that big time player across the board. Or maybe he's just hitting a hot streak. It could be a little bit of both. But, there aren't that many people like a Lindor out there. Bobby Witt Jr. maybe. There's not a whole lot of people that can do what Francisco Lindor did. And that's some pretty big shoes that, he's there. So.
And I will respond to this comment because if you're criticizing my take on JB Bickerstaff, why do you think that JB Bickerstaff, I should do this like Casey Kasem. So, DJ Brobot, why do you think that JB Bickerstaff only gets jobs with losing teams with young players who have no experience? And the reason is because they're losing organizations like the Cavs were, but they have some talent like Cade Cunningham and other people on the Pistons now. But you got a guy with experience who can knuckle down and ride herd on them. But that same coach can't coach proven commodities. Once these players become stars in the league, you can't just go out there and play them 45 minutes a night and cripple them. You can't take the same approach to Donovan Mitchell and his agent that you take to a guy who's just coming up in his first or second year, who's coming off of an incredibly bad team with an incredibly bad record. It's easier to get people to do your bidding when they're losing. But what happens when they start winning? And the problem with JB Bickerstaff is, unlike Stephen Vogt, he insisted on doing things his way without adapting to the emerging strengths of the no longer young players. And if you're watching at all what Evan Mobley is doing in the preseason, you're seeing how Kenny Atkinson is utilizing him differently. Out further from the basket, back cutting. He makes an inviting target back cutting to the basket because he's so long you can throw the ball up to him. He's using his passing skill set rather than making him Jared Allen in the middle. JB Bickerstaff is the right coach for the Pistons. He's the wrong coach for the Cavaliers because he could only take you so far. That's the answer to your question. So I hope that at least answers that. All right. But I don't understand why people are getting down on Class A. The fact of the matter is that if you hang a pitch, you hang a pitch. You hang a pitch to Giancarlo Stanton, it's going to go a long way. And I don't hear any of you complaining about the guy hanging a high changeup to John Kenzie. I don't hear you saying anything about that because you're a bunch of two-faced pricks. That's why.
There's a bunch of people on the Yankees forum talking about it. I will let you know that.
Oh, of course. Well, I mean, they think that they think they're a super race over there because they're from New York.
Something I want to bring up though, Moo.
Sure.
So I'm watching the game, and I'm still one of those people that actually have cable and a DVR. I know I'm old. So anyway, I slowed it down, right, and kind of backed it up and put Hammy, Tom Hamilton, the radio broadcast from Sirius XM on the radio on my Echo. So even that's delayed even more. So I was able to sync the whole thing up.
Oh, wow.
It's absolutely gorgeous. I can do it with football too. So we're going on there. One thing Hamilton brought up, and this is just amazing, how much bitching the Yankees did about balls and strikes. How long is it before you toss one of these little bitches, crybaby bitches? Yeah. Oh, I don't like this bit. Turn around.
Well, they're used to getting every.
Oh my God!
I know.
It was killing me, and it was killing him.
Well, that's why I was having so much fun on stage last night. You just rub it in because it's New York, and I was in Massachusetts in college, and in the actually in Amherst. So the guys who went to Amherst College spoke like this. The UMass guys like me, we partied, all right? But Boston was the center of the fucking universe. It's why Boston and New York hate each other, because Boston thinks they're the center of the universe, and New York knows they are, okay? So those two things are going to constantly collide. But they're so privileged and entitled. It really is annoying. But that's what's fun about beating them. That a bunch of unknown guys, they don't know who in the fuck John Kenzie Noel is. Hell, we didn't know who John Kenzie Noel was. Nobody talked about him in the preseason.
No.
Spring training. Nobody talked about 22-year-old John Kenzie Noel. Nobody said a word about him.
I saw him here in Columbus, but that was
a guy with raw power who wasn't really ready for anything. And Alistair saying, have you ever seen a ball hit like that? Yeah, the other ones he's hit. I mean, this guy, I watched John Kenzie Noel hit a single through the left side of the infield past the shortstop that came off his bat at 112 miles an hour. That ball got into left field so fast, I swear to God, the shortstop didn't even have a chance to take half a step to get to it. When he just lines it up, man, the ball jumps off his bat. The other thing that was really interesting was Manzardo, when he came up earlier in the year, his average ball was coming off his bat at 97 miles an hour. And I said, that's not the stuff of power hitters. And that's why I was saying his bat looked slow to me, because he was hitting balls in the gap and hitting some doubles, but he really wasn't hitting home runs. He went back down to the minor leagues. Maybe they got him working on something. The ball that he hit out to right field came off his bat at 108 miles an hour. That's what it's about. But the reason that you've never seen anything like, he's comparing it to Pedro Serrano, is that it jumps off his bat. He knows it when he hits it, but the best part is you at home know the second he hits it. The trajectory of the ball and the strength of the man, it ain't staying in the park. And that's the cool thing. David Fry, you're kind of wondering, you're leaning forward in your seat. It's like, is that going to make the stands, or is it going to go off the wall? What's it going to be? There's no doubt when John Kenzie hits it. No doubt.
Well, Fry knew it on that one, though. Fry's out there. As soon as he's out there, it's like bat on the ground.
Well, so did Hammy.
Oh, yeah. That was just, but the one with Noel, it was hit so damn hard. I'm sitting here and I'm like, and I'm going, oh, fuck, here we had a chance, blah, 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 blah. 2 outs, and went, holy crap. It's like, as soon as that ball left his bat on John Kenzie, it was, yeah, you knew that. I'm like, game's tied.
When he hits it, do you see how he recoils and throws the bat kind of backwards? It's like a spring action. Yeah. He really has a tremendous power gift. He just needs, like so many young players, to learn what to swing at, and that he doesn't have to crush every ball. He's got to learn what Aaron Judge has learned. Aaron Judge can go anywhere in the field, and if you pitch him outside, he'll take you out to right center. Exactly. He'll pull it. He'll take a high fastball and get on top of it, and he will hurt you. He can hit line drives like he did last night that carry just from sheer strength over the right field wall, or he can hit bombs.
When he hit that one, I didn't think. I'm like, oh, that's warning track. We got that.
I thought it was going to go off the wall.
It just kept. Yeah, that's what I thought too. I'm like, and I'm thinking, oh, he's got. Wait, what? Shit. It was like, yeah. It just kind of kept on going, and everybody's talking about the bullpen and this, that, and the other about it. It's like, and you did say this. How about Avila? What a freaking way to step up. A guy who is left off the wild card roster.
Right.
And came back and just, stepped up. He stepped up good the last time. It's just, everybody needs somebody, and that was that spot. It was so much fun. And, especially having Hammy on the radio, it was just.
Oh, well, this, my pleasure was meeting him and just talking radio stories with him. He's a good man, but he's professionally an extremely good play-by-play baseball announcer. And I'm not saying that just because I like him. I'm saying that because it's factual. He adds that excitement to, every play-by-play guy, going back to Joe Tate when the Cavaliers were miserable. But who could forget him doing the miracle at Richfield? Who could forget? Losing his voice, his heart and his soul were into it, man. And that's the way Hammy is too. Now, Alistair, I don't know anything about a BS Instagram post. Does anybody want to share that with me?
Class A. Yeah. Class A had so I guess there's things going on talking about this, and I'll see if I can even find it maybe, but he I guess, let's see what it says here. It's something like it's in Spanish. But the thing was, he was definitely bumming when everything happened. He's sitting in the dugout kind of by himself.
Yeah.
And supposedly he left the stadium by himself and just was kind of like, he's really bummed. Now keep in mind, they've asked him 3 times now to do something he has not done all year. The guy's been the best reliever in baseball, not even close to anybody. And all of a sudden he is crushing it. It's just one of those kind of things. And now they're asking him to come in the 8th inning with people in scoring position, which he hasn't had to do. And now he's got to be the fireman, and he's also got to be his normal closer.
Well, but let me add something else to that, Hammer. It's long series, and players see the same pitchers over and over again. So how do you remain fresh, novel, and confusing to a bunch of people who've already seen your repertoire? When you're a relief pitcher and you only play teams, with the exception of in your division, a few times, the Yankees didn't see much of Class A, and the Tigers saw more of Class A than other teams would have. But no, again, nobody's talking about the Yankees relievers like Clay Holmes and people who are fucking up, because now they're being seen game after game, because the deeper these games go, they've got to use their pen, and they are not playing from in front all of a sudden.
Did you hear the thing about the batting cage thing too, the AI batting cage?
No.
So supposedly, and I don't know if everybody has it, but supposedly the teams now have this AI batting cage where it takes statistics from all these pitchers, puts it up on a screen, and it makes them look. It shows you what they look like when they're throwing the pitch. And somebody posted something about is Class A showing a tell? And I'm looking at it and I'm like, his elbow's a little bit different. Hard to see. And especially if that ball's coming at 102 and 103 and 101 or whatever. Granted, these guys are Major League Baseball players, and the Yankees have the along with the Dodgers, the highest payrolls in the game. So, it's just amazing. But supposedly they get a chance to see these pitchers over and over and over again in this AI batting cage thing. And they never allowed that to happen before, and supposedly allowed them teams to bring it on the road with them or something. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's at every stadium. So,
well, I mean, there's no such thing as an unhittable pitcher. There are days where you're an unhittable pitcher, but after 162 games, and in his case, 47 saves? Is that how many Class A's had during the regular season? And the fact that has been so dominant, to be seeing him over and over and over again. And then if they have tools like you're explaining, which they did talk about a little bit on TBS, but you never know whether they're making shit up or not. Because when Ron Darling, I mean, come on, I know that he was with the Mets. Give me a fucking break. These people are New Yorkers. You're never going to get any kind of fair shake with these announcers. They're going to put the blame on the small market team and pimp the New York team.
I will say, though, that MLB TV, MLB Network, after the game, showed lots of love. Okay. They were, of course, the back-to-back jacks, they were all over that, but they showed lots of love for the guards. And, they had to do it because
the way it turned out,
their guys lost, but
they were as surprised as anybody that the Guardians could raise from the dead like that, because talk about a disheartening circumstance, being 3 up and in a heartbeat, man. It's 5-3 down, and you got no time to come back, and you're not a home run hitting team. And to win that way, it was funny. I don't know if you saw Booney's presser after the game. Somebody asked him, so did your players have the feeling that they had pretty much wrapped everything up? And did he go? And he looked at the reporter and started mimicking him and saying, wrapping it up, huh? And he's, and you could see that it's never over until the last out. And it doesn't matter if nobody knows who John Kenzie Noel is, but maybe that's good. Because again, a pitcher throws the ball in the wrong spot, he's going to pay for it. And I'm sure that Class A is distressed, but again, calling him a little bitch or whatever isn't going to make him go out and do better. it's just going to make him want to leave Cleveland like athletes do, because you don't want to be a Philadelphia fan, do you? Damn.
Nobody wants that.
I just want my teams to be competitive. I don't sit there and carry on in the offseason about why the Cavaliers just play lousy again. It's like, because JB Bickerstaff never could get further. And I hate to tell you this, Kenny Atkinson hasn't been able to either. But there aren't a whole lot of coaches who have the talent, like Pops did in San Antonio, guys who keep, or Phil Jackson, who had the talent right there, and year after year established a system that they just kept fine tuning.
I think in both those cases too, those teams had leadership on the floor that expected the best out of everybody else out there. Even when Rodman was out doing his wacky ass shit, all he had to do was look over at Jordan and Pippen, and they kind of gave him the evil eye and went, "Hey, it's time for you to enforce this," and kind of go on from there. You know what I mean? It seemed like there was that leadership. I think we're getting it now with Spida. I mean, Mitchell definitely is.
He understands what needs to be done.
Yeah, and I think you got that. I think if Allen can stay healthy, you got the same kind of a thing there. Just a good work ethic. Just keeps. The question is, can they put it all together or whatever? It's hard to say.
The hard thing with Kenny Atkinson, let me tell you, Kenny Atkinson, he's a crazy runner. He's a guy, but he strikes me as being a guy who's like on Adderall. He's just constantly in motion. And the question is, how will the players take to his demeanor? And can we find a balance between the players and the coaching to be together and to figure out a methodology that works for this group of players? I think the Cavaliers, and I'm not going to sit here and badmouth Dan Gilbert because he's put the money out to keep the players. And, if he thought that a rebuild was the only way to go, he would do it, but he would spend money to bring in whatever he could bring into Cleveland. He felt that staying pat and bringing in maybe a different system that encouraged Darius Garland to shoot more threes, that more people to take some pull-up threes to get the tempo of the game up instead of JB's hunkering down at half court, even though he said he wanted to improve the pace. JB is who JB is, and he's not an up-tempo kind of coach. What the Pistons have to be worried about is they're used to running up and down the floor in very little pattern because they are a losing team and they were just expressing their athleticism. Now it's going to be very much in the half court, and it's going to become way more important for Cade Cunningham, instead of being a physical kind of player with a lot of physical skills. He's got to become a better shooter. And it's the thing that happened to LeBron James, and I want to bring his name up one more time, because a lot of you people don't like LeBron James either. And that's the only championship. All right. The NFL championship in '64, that was before consolidation of the NFL. That was not a modern victory. The 48 World Series was somewhere in the buried dinosaur past. LeBron James is the greatest athlete who ever played in the city of Cleveland. And he's likely to be that for a long time into the future. And it took everything that he could do, and the people are bringing K-Love in, getting those draft picks after the disaster of things going down the shitter. And when he left the first time and cratered, but, getting Kyrie Irving and getting then Darius Garland and then being able to bring in Spida, that's Dan Gilbert opening up the wallet. But in the end, to get it done in the playoffs, it really requires great players, because that's the way the sports are built. And you can see that by the way TBS goes about its announcing and everybody else does. It's the star athletes who call the shots, and they're the ones who they fawn over. And maybe for a minute they'll fawn over John Kenzie Noel, but that's done with. So
unless he hits another one tonight.
Yeah.
And maybe tomorrow. And,
That's the thing. When he hit him in bunches.
Yeah. I mean,
for a little period there.
First at bat, where did it go? Seats, right?
Yeah. I mean, he started like, who the hell is this guy?
And
why has he been sitting in AAA? And then we found out he became like an electric fan.
Bats are afraid.
He's circulating air in the stadium from swings and misses. I do have to talk a little bit about the Browns, and I'm purposely talking as little as I can about the Browns because, again, people are getting down on Amari Cooper. And this is just a Cleveland thing of maybe an inferiority complex because deep down you don't feel that where you are is good enough. I really have no idea what causes it because I grew up in Northeast Ohio. I left and I chose to come back because I like a lot of people here. But, a lot of this is really goofy to me. The Cleveland Browns, if you worked for a bad employer, you would know what it's like and you wouldn't want to work there. And if you had a choice, you'd leave. But most of us don't have a choice. So you just keep going to work, the unhappy soul that you are. And that's kind of the way it works. Well, I'm happy for Amari Cooper because, he can prove that he has it. Wherever he goes, he can prove himself. What I'm concerned about with the Cleveland Browns is that they have a bunch of players who aren't putting out and trying on the field, and they're not focused. And they're jumping off sides. They're doing stupid things, busted coverages, missing blocks. They're doing all kinds of things. And it's the wrong approach. So, again, nobody's picking the Browns to beat the Bengals. The Bengals average, a lot more in their passing and running games than the Cleveland Browns do. They have a running back who averages 5.5 yards per carry. They've got 2 wide receivers who are tearing people a new asshole. And I'm sorry?
We don't tackle well.
That's right. And there will be a third receiver who will somehow stand up because we'll forget to cover them because we're not paying attention to what's going on. Right now, the Browns are not in a position to beat anybody because they're dismantling the team. And so somebody's asking this question, my thoughts on the new stadium. And what I would tell you is the way a magician works. Let's see how smart you are, Hammer.
Right.
How does a magician fool you?
By making you think of something else.
It's diverting you.
It's you. There's like my one of my favorite things is Eddie Murphy in Beverly Hills Cop, and he goes in there and Gilbert Gottfried's in the thing, and he's talking about we got all these tickets over here, and he goes, what if in this hand you had, let's say, a crisp $100, $50 bill, $100 bill, and you would forget about everything in this hand over here, and he goes, what about 200? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, we could, it's like, that's exactly, it's the shell game. It's like, you
diversion.
And there it is, yeah.
And diversion is what the Browns do best. When they no longer have a product that is worth watching, and believe me, right now, the product is not worth watching. And everybody knows that. The players know that. They're not trying as hard as they should be. The coaches aren't changing what they're doing, and they're stuck in a rut. The management has no clue on what it needs to do to get out of the rut. You've got a bunch of analytics people who probably are just, they're all jerking each other off. And they're saying, well, it looks good on paper. The numbers look good, and all of that nonsense. But the diversion is twofold here. They're down to week, folks. Why should anybody come to the stadium to watch the Browns play the Bengals? Why?
If you're a Bengals fan, that's about it.
So what does Jimmy the Diverter Haslam do?
We're going to do this. We're going to build a pretty stadium in Brook Park.
That's
and
right.
You're totally going to forget about how bad the team is playing right now, because you're going to be thinking about how nice it's going to be in December when you're sitting nice and warm in your seats.
And if you've ever seen
watching a bad team,
the movie Funny Farm with Chevy Chase, when they're trying to make a house look better than it is so that somebody will buy it, and they have a bunch of deer on the property that they have in a cage, and Chevy Chase is on a walkie-talkie saying, "Cue the deer," so that the deer runs out right in the front yard, right when the people looking at the property see them running. So it looks perfect. It looks idyllic. You know what Jimmy Haslam's done? Not only all these renderings suddenly of a dome that they weren't sure that they were really going to do a couple of weeks ago, which they knew damn well they were going to. So now they're showing you all these pictures to get you hard, you know? And it's like fluffer. I'm going to get you hard. And then they're going to say to the fans, Nick Chubb's coming back this week. That's their trump card. Now he's questionable to return, but he's coming back this week. He practiced. You got to come to the stadium because you got to support Nick Chubb, because Nick Chubb has given you so much. And that's absolutely true. Nick Chubb is if every player on the field was as determined as Nick Chubb, we wouldn't be losing like this. But it's so negative to use his inspiration to get people to come to a stadium to watch a shitty team that has no morale whatsoever. So my thoughts on the new stadium, it's a diversion. It's another way for Jimmy to make more money. What makes you think that the product inside that building is going to be any better than the product inside this building? The same idiots running it. It would be like taking a restaurant that had no customers because the food was lousy and moving it into a better location. What sense does it make if the food still doesn't taste good? That's what my thoughts are on the new stadium and how fatalistic it is to be utilizing Nick Chubb this way. That is pathetic, because fans of their own volition are only coming out to the stadium to boo. That's the only reason they're coming out. To boo Deshaun Watson and to boo the team. That's why they're coming out. And of course, Deshaun Watson's never going to be any good. Not in Cleveland, maybe nowhere else.
The other thing I really have seen a bunch of, and this is something that's really starting to bother me, is people talking about how to get rid of Deshaun Watson's contract, how to send him to some team that has a bunch of cap space. Send him along with the first round draft pick. I'm like, really? Have we not just given away 3 years of this team's future? I feel like Sonny Weaver Jr. right now. Have we not given away 3 years of this team's future? And we want to give away a fourth just because we hate this guy? I'm like, at least when it was a year or 2 years ago, the Commanders blew up their defensive line, right? They had two of the better defenders and got rid of both of them, got draft picks, did that. And then, of course, they tanked the season anyway, playing Kirk Cousins and a multitude of quarterbacks, kind of like we did last year. Tanked the season and ended up hitting the jackpot with Jalen, right? So all of a sudden they hit the jackpot and everything is beautiful. At least take a chance. We're so terrible at drafting, but at least take a chance that maybe we get somebody. So,
well, so Mr. B, yep, move or rust. And that's the case. It's like, if I stand still here, I'm only going to get older and I'm only going to get slower. Give me a chance to play real football. Get me out of this Mickey Mouse environment. I don't blame him. Yeah. He's 30 years old, but in real human years, he's 50, His body's taken a beating. Let him go where he can succeed. I hope he succeeds. I don't feel badly or let down by Amari Cooper. The fact of the matter is that the organization will say, oh, he was a great guy and we're just giving him a chance. No, what you're doing is you're trying to cover for the mistakes that you've made, which are so abundant that, that the team is being dismantled, and you're just going to show us pretty artwork of a new building, but the team isn't going to be any good. That's kind of the way that works. When you get headlines like this from clevelandbrowns.com, Browns defense seeking to pressure Joe Burrow. Well, what makes you think they can pressure him? They haven't pressured anybody else. Of course, they're seeking that, but
I'm seeking to win the lottery and maybe never mind.
And then here's the other headline. How's this for a generic? Browns offense looking to attack Bengals defense. That would be novel now, wouldn't it? And they asked Stefanski, is there going to be anything different? And he said, there may be a few things here and there. This game is going to be a short passing game, and is going to be throwing the balls to running backs, throwing the balls to 3 tight ends. It's going to be Kevin Stefanski doing what Kevin Stefanski knows, and it's going to be whatever it takes to do short yardage, and they have no chance to win the game. They're going to lose the game 31-10. They have no business being on the field right now. The team is a whipped puppy. They've seen one guy being traded, so they all know it's time to get out. Bitonio says, I don't have to cripple myself anymore, and I don't think I want to go anywhere else. I've made enough money, and I've invested it wisely. You're going to see a lot of people just folding their tents at the end of the year, and you can't blame them. And as far as Deshaun Watson, no, he doesn't look like the kind of player to me who rallies his teammates. He doesn't look like an animated, do it, get it done kind of guy. He just looks like a guy who was a star in college, who was an early bright light in the NFL, and he chose a lifestyle of feeding whatever it was inside of him that needed to be fed. And I don't see anything in him. I don't see field vision at this point. I don't see anything that would lead me to believe that he's ever going to be a successful quarterback in Cleveland. And I'd say there's a 75% chance he's not going to be a successful quarterback anyplace else either. I think that his career is about finished. He's 30 already. And that's a magic age, And so everyone's picking the Bengals to win. Yes, I'll be watching the game. Yes, I'll be on at halftime and postgame, but I don't take it particularly seriously. Meanwhile, Mike Tomlin refuses to divulge who his starting quarterback's going to be. I thought they were so happy with Justin Fields, but it was just one of those one-date kind of flirtations until Fields turned out to be, he started looking downright bearish now, didn't he? And he refused to say who his starting quarterback is, but there's George Pickens, the crazy motherfucker, telling the press that Russell Wilson's going to start. How long will George Pickens be a Steeler? How long will this cuckoo guy be in the NFL?
Well, here's the deal with that, and I'm going to just state this out there. The Steelers don't tolerate that kind of stupid stuff. He will be gone from the Steelers. They will find another place to send him. Here's one of my favorite stats is the fact that Watson has, as a Cleveland Brown, a total of 19 touchdown passes and 27 settled lawsuits. So, he's doing something good. See, I was going to go 34-9 was going to be my number.
Missed extra point?
No, I just think they're going to get 3 field goals. I think that's it.
Okay.
They're not going to get the end zone. They're going to get 3 field goals, and that's 34-9, and that's only because they put in the backups at the end, because otherwise it'd be worse. That Amsterdam, that's a great stat there. That could very well be true.
Yeah. I mean, how do you handle something if you can't protect your quarterback? How are you going to get people downfield? And we haven't even started to mention Judy and and that Tillman. Are they going to rely on him? And I couldn't believe that Kevin Stefanski even brought up Jamari Thrash. If Jamari Thrash were anything that good, then why is Elijah Moore playing?
Here, Amsterdam posted that number. So far, Watson is averaging 5.1 yards per pass.
Yeah, it's pathetic.
5.1. That's not good.
But I don't know what quarterback is going to be able to work with Elijah Moore and this receiving core. Cedric Tillman. I mean, so the guy who got probably 60 to 70% of your targets is gone. And you're going to wait for Jerry exhausted Judy to try to get open if he's winded because he's not conditioned properly, or that Elijah Moore, you're going to count on him to catch the football, or Cedric Tillman to run the right pattern, or you're going to bring up Jamari Thrash's name all of a sudden when he hasn't even been good enough to play a down all season? Come on. Stop with the nonsense.
It's like Bronk used to do when he'd call into Pete Franklin and say we should trade some Jamoke for like the best player in the league.
Yes. That was the Pete Franklin thing. We all did that.
He was 9 at the time, but
Well, I did the same thing. We call Pete and he get all angry on the goddamn phone, man. Why do you people keep calling me? Just so we hear you do that, because we're little kids. We just got off on that, Well, at any rate, you know what I think? I'm hoping against odds because the Yankees are going to be pissed, man. And we've got Gavin Williams throwing for the first time here in, the playoffs. I don't know. Gavin Williams has some talent, but he has definite command issues, and the Yankees don't chase bad pitches.
No, they do not.
It's going to be interesting, but I really would love to see the Guardians squeak this one out, just to see. The Yankees haven't won a World Series since 2009? Is that right?
15 years, yeah.
And they've been a perennial disappointment in the eyes of the fans, considering how much money they've spent on the product.
And the nerve to say we're due. I'm like, 1948, suck it.
So I would do anything to see this series tied up at 2-2 to see if their balls shrivel. That is, to me, the interest, because if they go up 3-1, they know they're going. They got one more game in Cleveland, but they're going to go home. They can put it away.
It goes 2-2. Do you see them starting to press? I mean, seriously, that.
You know what I'll tell you? You can't win games making base running errors that they've made, and they've made a series of gaffes on the base paths that were inexplicable. I mean, a guy like Trevino gets a base hit to the right side, threw it to the right side into right field. What is a catcher doing that far off first base?
Yeah.
And why did Clay Holmes, when the ball came right back to him, not turn and throw to third to nail the runner at third?
Yeah.
Because the guy was stuck going, who was it? Naylor, right?
Yeah.
He Bo Naylor was stuck running, and he said he just threw it to first. I mean, they're making pivotal errors, and the one where there was second and third and one out, and it was like an easy situation, and the guy at second fell asleep off the bag. I mean, really weird stuff. They got to get their focus, because if this Guardians team can win tonight and get excited, all it takes is for a guy like John Kenzie to get zoned in, and for a few guys to start getting a little bit of confidence, and you could be in trouble. And then if you were to go back to New York behind 3-2 to the Guardians,
it's going to get ugly.
And if they get off to a bad start in the game, the fans are going to boo them out of the stadium because they're elitist and they deserve better because they're from New York. That's what will happen.
Oh,
So
that would be so nice.
So the Guardians at 8:08 tonight. The Cavaliers will be on tonight. I believe, 7 o'clock tonight? Is that what the...
I am actually booked myself. I am keeping score for a Big Ten volleyball matchup. So,
and you never know, Hammer. I might be down in the greater Columbus area.
Well, I will have to make sure I DM you my phone number.
Yeah,
I got nothing else. Well, that's on the east side. That's no problem. I live in Dublin, so.
Oh, okay, yeah. But there's a bike shop down there, and I'm shopping for a trike, and they carry Bicycle One is the name of the company, and they're in Gahanna. So I'm gonna check it out maybe sometime before I leave here next week. So I don't have very long to do it, but if I find myself in your neck of the woods, just drop me a phone number and I could contact you.
Will do.
All right, man. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I'm sorry this may not have been what you wanted to hear, but support the Guardians. Support the team that wins. Support LeBron James for bringing back the title. Be supportive. Don't be like New York fans and boo and be babies about all this. While the opportunity's there, give them some positive energy and let these young players have an opportunity to go as far as they can because they're giving their all. The Browns aren't. You can go to the stadium and boo all you want because they're not trying hard, but the Guardians really are. Thanks, everybody, and I will see you game day on Sunday at the half. Until then, hasta la vista, Pasture Heads. Good night.